Hi everyone, it's time for today's team meeting. It's Friday, so I'm on location at this local hiking trail. In a few minutes I will change and sit in the car because that will be required in a few minutes. But first I wanted to go over what our agenda is for today. Love, that's on the agenda. At the team meeting, our goal here is to have a common agenda, have common action items, and individually you think about how what we're talking about applies to your life, and we go from there. I don't want to waste your time. This is not like the boring meetings that you attend via Zoom or before Zoom in person. We actually get things done, and we're all about personal growth, laughing, learning, laughing, and growing. So although this is turned into a podcast, right? Woo, exciting. Podcast is free. I'm going to show you how you can access it with your phone. It's free. It's like radio program without the video. You don't see my face, but I'll still do these videos because I think it's valuable. And hopefully you agree and I'm adding value to you. So housekeeping. So we talked about that. Here's a funny. I think I teased with this a couple days ago. A couple years ago, I lived in the Washington, D.C. area. Not a couple, like 15 years ago. And I was taking graduate school courses at George Washington University, and one of the courses was constitutional law. And we were allowed to take in a session of the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court. So because we took this class, we had the opportunity to have a front seat to how laws were being passed, how laws were being made. So it was really awesome, awesome opportunity to live in D.C. and to have that opportunity to see it firsthand. The only thing is I was sick the day of, and so I showed up looped up on Benadryl to keep myself from being in pain from the sinus infection. But I think we all know Benadryl makes you drowsy. So I got really sleepy during the Supreme Court session, and I think I nodded off a couple times. Well, just FYI, they have security officers who roam the area, walk the aisles where everyone is watching, and he happened to nudge me and try to wake me up to remind me that I wasn't supposed to be sleeping in the Supreme Court. Yeah, that happened. I was so embarrassed. He didn't kick me out, but he did say, you're gonna have to wake up. I guess it doesn't look good in case I started snoring or you just don't want to have a bunch of people who are sleeping. Anyway, that's my funny story, getting called out for sleeping at the Supreme Court. I gotta be in the class though. Our agenda today is love. So love, self-love, loving yourself. It's a controversial topic, right? Not a lot of people, let me give you more of a view. Not a lot of people want to get into this topic, but we're going to get into it. It's something I've been talking to others who have been watching the videos about, and I thought it would be worthy to add my view. I've had a lot of experience with this. If you hear anything, remember, I'm at the park. So, loving yourself. I think it's best that I start with the story of my current circumstances with my daughter. My daughter, when she was born, had a birth injury in her hands. So this makes her hands, both of them, not basic. And by basic, I mean most people have the 5 limbs. The average length, the thumb is shorter, the other fingers are longer or shorter, but her hands are not like that. So she's going through life with occupational therapy and confirmation through that therapy that there are no things that she can't do, like buttons and zips and bicycle handlebars and driving eventually, things like that. Now, I have absolutely no doubt that she'll be fine with this physically, and I will do anything to make sure that she always has the resources to support her. I mean, she swipes on the phone, so far she holds her bottle, she feeds herself, she holds her sippy cups, she has no trouble carrying things. It's not impacting her, but we still go through these efforts to make sure that she always has the resources to continue to get stronger and build the endurance. I think we've talked about her as an example of resistance and endurance leading to strength. But love is what we're talking about today, and I want to relate that back. As I parent, I realize there's an opportunity for me to even heal some wounds of myself. One of those wounds is recognizing the opportunity and the responsibility I have to create an environment for my daughter to love herself unconditionally. It's going to be pretty tempting for her not to. If people are pointing out her hands and saying that they're not normal or what's wrong with her hands, it's already happened. Just an innocent comment from other children who said, "What's wrong with her hands?" And I, as a parent, had to say, "There's nothing wrong. She was born that way." Well, I imagine this is something that, I'm going to need to get used to, because when something looks different, when you're not basic, when you're not average like everyone else, there'll often be questions. So my responsibility is to create an environment that allows her to see that not being average, not being basic, not being like everyone else doesn't mean you're broken, doesn't mean you're suffering, and doesn't mean you're not good enough. As I teach her that lesson, to go boldly forth into environments where people may question what's happening with your body, or maybe they'll even find out, because she will know that she's adopted. Now, where does self-love come in when you're in environments like this and it triggers the thought that you're not good enough, you're not enough in some way, that you're lacking something, that you're not loved, that you're not accepted? So this is a toddler we're talking about, but what about adults? How do we compensate for that? Overworking to prove our worth? I did that for many years. I worked my butt off because I didn't accept me as me, that I had to earn my right to be in this world by saying, well, at least I can say I've done something, made a contribution to my existence by trying to be the top of everything. Scholarships through college, going to work for federal government agencies that required polygraphs, working in the nation's capital, leaving home, refusing to come home until I had everything together. I didn't want to come home until I could prove that I was successful. That is not exactly a demonstration of love. It's an expression of me saying I'm not enough, so I need to prove that I am. It's why I say parenting my daughter allows me to readdress any areas in my own life that require a touch-up, or require me to rethink, or require me to make sure that foundation is solid, because I cannot protect my daughter from everything that she's going to face. But I can provide an atmosphere where there is radical, unconditional love. So in giving her that, I have to give it to myself. So yeah, I did the opposite by overachieving. Some people overdrink because of sadness and not accepting themselves. Oversex by accepting love through people who want their bodies, men and women. Overdrink, oversex, overwork, overthink, overdrug, over anything, as a way to compensate for some hole or lack that they feel inside their heart, and they're making up for it. This doesn't apply to everyone. I'm not even going to say it is. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not any kind of expert. I'm only speaking from my experience and the experience I'm having as a parent. So, where do you fall in this category with love? Overthinking, overdrinking, oversexing, saying I'll be happy when? That's another one. I'll be happy when these certain circumstances in life are such. When I'm married, when I got 10K plus 200K saved, when I've lost X amount of weight, been there, done that. For me, like I said, I applied these strict rules and guidelines for me accepting myself and me determining, no, I can't move home until I have certain things that are checked off, like marriage, like family, like successful career. Now, I was successful, and if you look on paper, but fulfilled career, something I really wanted to do. And I almost like I was postponing liking my life, loving myself until then. So let's talk about 3 tips I just thought of as action items, right? Hopefully this will add value for you. Or maybe you can tell me how this plays out for you. Action 1 would be, what are you saying to yourself? this takes a lot of self-work, a lot of introspection, I'll say. Get alone. What are you thinking? For me, again, transparency. I was thinking, what happens? Someone's coming here with the dogs. I gotta try to move. What happens if I move home and everything that I've dreamed of is not? What happens then? You hear my daughter. Buddy, hi buddy. What happens if I, here's another contemporary example. Me being a late parent. So, 1 minute, okay? Thank you. A late parent. I mean, that's a big one. Most of my contemporaries at my age are grandparents. I know I don't look like a grandparent. Let's be clear there. Let's be clear. However, at this age, you got to go to the park. With raising a toddler, you got to go to the park. You got to get on the floor. You got to get up. You got to get down. And when you want to have just a glass of wine and watch Netflix, no. You gotta have a schedule where you're putting the baby to bed. I love every minute of it, but I'm not gonna lie and pretend that it's easy. But what am I saying to myself? Am I judging myself though? Am I saying, oh, you're an old mom, oh, you missed out, oh, you're late? Because those are not words of love. Second, learning to say no. Do you have trouble saying no to people? Even if you say it in a kind way, like, you don't have to be twitchy about it. You can say, that doesn't work for me. Can we do this instead? Or no, I can't do it. Maybe another time. Or some other way, but still no. Or do you feel afraid to say no because you'll cause conflict? That's not an expression of love for yourself. That's saying you don't matter. I did it. I've loaned money to people who didn't pay me back. I have given extensions of myself that were not worthy of the recipient. Because I thought, and maybe to some extent, I just basically said their needs mattered more than mine. And I may have used the excuse that I'm stronger to hold it. I can hold it. I can hold on to endurance of going through a trial or tribulation or tough times. They can't. So I decided to take one for the team. That's not taking one for the team. That's not being on your own team. Third, it's like a ticker tape. You know, the stock market has that ticker tape that goes through. You know how that works? Well, the question would be, what does yours say? I know different kind of things that could go through, like, you're not good enough. No good thing happens to you. You got to get your act together. Nothing goes right for you. Something along those lines. Notice it. Those are 3 things I've given you. Right? What are you saying to yourself? Can you say no? What are you hearing for yourself? What are you hearing? Can you say no? And what kind of noise is going on in the background? 1 and 3 are similar. Slight nuance. I'm about to close out from this beautiful location. I'm just barely wearing a jacket. I want you to think about those 3 actions. And just as I close, I just want to say, I am radically going to live a life where I teach my daughter to boldly accept herself, regardless of what people say to her. She's adopted. She was born with a birth injury. That doesn't define her. She is not looking for validation like a parking ticket. She's already validated. You're already validated. So when people don't accept you for who you are, wait for the next one. The next bus, the next plane, the next love, the next door, the next. Loving yourself doesn't mean loving others, doesn't mean you get to pay the price and not be loved. You deserve to be loved, and it needs to start with yourself. We'll talk more about this because I can't handle it in 15 minutes. I'm going to give it some more thought. We'll pick it back up next week because I think it's worthy. Tune in Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, the team meeting. I love you and I wish you well. Have a great weekend.